Going to start. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much to the Manchester community and specifically the Hershel Weiss Center for asking me to come. I know that now during these trying times, they can't do their regular work of bringing the community together. So they asked me to come and bring some Yontif preparation and baking to all of you in a full and free way. So I just want to introduce myself. My name is Rorie. Rorie Weisberg. I live in New York in Muncie. And I am a health coach and a recipe developer. I actually write for Mishpacha magazine. I have a monthly column where I educate the community on balanced, healthy ingredients. We break down and understand why ingredients matter and mostly how to make the foods you love with ingredients that love your body back. I also have my own show on kosher.com. You guys can head over to the website, kosher.com, and look up shows. And my show is called Living Full and Free. And we have over 30 cooking videos, very similar to what we're going to be doing today. They just speed them up a lot, where I feature new recipes that I've developed that are really takeoffs of the regular traditional foods that we typically eat. And I teach people how to make them with better for you ingredients. So one of the big changes that I encourage for people to make is swapping out healthier ingredients swapping out healthy ingredients for the standard traditional, let's say, oils and sweeteners and flours. And just by revamping the quality of the ingredients you use, you totally transform the food you're already making. So when it comes to oils, the 3 healthy fats that I recommend is extra virgin coconut oil, avocado oil, and olive oil. It is important to get them in their extra virgin, whole, naturally unrefined version. Otherwise, they're still better than, let's say, vegetable oil or canola oil, but it's much less ideal than, let's say, using the extra virgin unrefined version. The other big swap that I recommend people make is their sweeteners. So today we're actually going to be using coconut sugar, otherwise called coconut nectar, which is just basically comes from a coconut and it's unrefined. And then also raw honey, maple syrup, 100% pure maple syrup is also one of the sweeteners that I use. Oh, and we are using another one today, which is Ceylon. Ceylon is just basically date syrup, super healthy, all natural. These are the sweeteners that Hashem made for us to enjoy. He does want us to enjoy sweet foods because he made them. He made them in an unrefined way that is easier on our blood sugar and doesn't have a lot of the high levels of fructose and glucose that regular white table sugar has. So these are the sweeteners that I recommend. And my goal is always to use a smaller amount. So you'll notice in a lot of my recipes, I'll call for a 1/4 cup of honey or 1/3 of a cup of coconut sugar, as opposed to most cakes and cookies where you'll see a cup or more of sugar. You'll be surprised to find that a little goes a long way. And then the third thing that I recommend when it comes to swapping is your flour. So if you follow me on Instagram or you know me from Mishpacha or any other of my places where I feature recipes and articles, is that I have a line of better for you bread mixes. It started with a gluten-free dough mix, and then I added my low-carb version of that. It's a low-carb gluten-free dough mix. I have a spelt flour and a spelt dough mix, and I also have my grain-free all-purpose flour blend, which was featured last year Pesach. It is a grain-free paleo flour. People on ketogenic diets eat it. It's great for people who have blood sugar-related issues. It's a combination of almond flour, arrowroot starch, and coconut flour, which are 3 grain-free flours that have a much lower glycemic impact. It has more fiber. Almond flour even has protein. So this has a much lower impact on blood sugar. It's easier to digest than white flour. You often, that heavy feeling you get after you eat white flour and white sugar, you won't feel when eating baked goods made with the grain-free mix, especially if you're coupling them with a natural sugar and a natural oil. So today, being that Yontif is right around the corner, can you believe it? I want to show you how to make my absolutely most favorite, decadent, delicious dessert. It is such a crowd pleaser. And we're going to show you how to make it so much lighter, so much healthier, But the trick here is like nobody's gonna even know. You're gonna serve it and they're just gonna think you make this incredible dessert, but only you are the wiser. So we're making 3 components here, and I'm gonna show you that you can serve it in different ways. I have everything prepared except for my spring pen, so we'll get that while we're mixing. Okay, so basically today we are going to be making my chocolate mousse recipe, which I'll show you 2 ways of making it. You can either just make it as a mousse in little ramekins and freeze them. You take them out to let them thaw a little bit, serve it with Ceylon ice cream or a cookie crumble. Or I'm gonna show you how you can make it as a mousse cake, where you're gonna bake the whole batter in a spring pan or even just like a round pan, a casserole dish if that's what you have, that's fine. And you will bake about a third, about a half to a third, depending on how much mousse you like, of the batter. You bake that for about 15-20 minutes, let it cool, and then you're gonna add the chocolate mousse on top, and then freeze it, defrost it before serving, and you cut it in like pie pieces, and it has like a cake bottom with the mousse on top. So let's just get started, okay? I'm going to look at the chat at the end. I'm sure you guys will have questions. At the end, I'm going to share the recipe with you. You can all write it down, and I'll answer all your questions at the end, but let's get started. Okay, so what you're going to need for the chocolate mousse is 4 simple ingredients. We have 7 eggs that I already separated. We're going to be using coconut oil, a high quality, low sugar chocolate chip. In this case, I'm using, this one is actually 60% chocolate, and then it's 40% sugar. This one has 6 grams per serving. We're going to be using 7 ounces. This is a 9-ounce bag, so most of the bag. They do make 72% chocolate. They make 85% chocolate. Personally, I like it with 85% chocolate because I don't need it very sweet at all. But I'm actually going to freeze this one and put it away preemptive where, I don't know if I'm going to have guests this year, but probably not. But usually when I'm serving company, I prefer to stick to more like the 60 to 72% because most people really do need a little bit sweeter. Also, when it comes to the coconut sugar, the recipe calls for a half a cup, but I've even made it with a quarter cup. So if you have what I call a very full and free palate, you're really not used to sweet foods, you have a very low sugar diet, using 72 to 85% chocolate and only a quarter cup of coconut sugar should really be enough for you in this recipe. But we're gonna make it the regular way. So what we're going to do is we have this pot right here, and we're gonna start by putting 7 ounces. Okay, we're gonna put 7 ounces of chocolate chips right here in the pot. Leave off a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to add a half a cup of coconut oil. So we've got our coconut oil right here. This one is the La Bonne organic coconut oil. You want to look for organic. Well, it doesn't have to necessarily be organic, but it has to be extra. Well, I shouldn't say have to. I recommend extra virgin. That is the one that has that coconut smell and taste, which some people really love and some people really don't. If you really can't stand that coconut taste, the unrefined version refines it and takes out that coconutty flavor, but the refining process is also not your healthiest option. So what I usually tell people is if you're just changing over to healthy eating and your family's not going to eat this recipe because of the coconutty flavor, then just make it with the refined. You're still doing a lot better than buying something at the bakery. And then start incorporating half and half, or adding in 2 tablespoons of the unrefined the next time you make it, and try to kind of get them used to it slowly over time. Also, the ice cream has a pretty strong coconutty flavor as well. Because of the Ceylon, it's not overly strong, but if you're a person that really doesn't like coconut, you might be sensitive and not really enjoy it so much. So really, most people do really like it. Okay, so now I've got my chocolate and my coconut oil is starting to melt. I've got it on a medium to low flame because you don't want it to burn. And I'm going to cover it and move away just to show you, but you do definitely want to keep your eye on it because you don't want your chocolate to burn. We're going to mix it every few minutes. Okay, now, in the meantime, I've got my mixer here. And now I have my eggs. So I'm going to take my egg whites. This is 7 egg whites. Just bring them in my mixer bowl. And now I'm going to whip my egg whites while my chocolate is melting. Okay, and you're going to want to get your whites very, very, very stiff. Okay, while we let this mix, and I'm going to check my chocolate chips. I'm going to get my spring down. Give me 1 second. I can't find it. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Can't find my other one. In the meantime, I'll just use this one. I like to make them round, but. Okay, the egg whites are stiffening. Chocolate is slowly melting. In the meantime, while I'm letting that do its work, we're going to take our 7 egg yolks and we're going to mix them with a half a cup of coconut sugar. Okay? And you're just going to mix this together to create this sort of pasty with sugar and egg yolks. I have my oven preheated, by the way, to 350 degrees. See? Really want very stiff white, so we're going to be patient. I'm going to show you the chocolate. Here's the chocolate. You see there's still some clumps in it. So I'm going to keep it a little bit longer. Let's see in the meantime. You can't get the products in Manchester. I know. I'm going to tell you an alternative. Some of you can hear me with the mixer on. I think so. Okay. So if you can't get my mix in Manchester to make the cookie crumble, you can make it with plain almond flour. It doesn't hold together quite as well because this has this perfect blend of coconut flour and arrowroot starch, but it will produce a crumble. You might need a little bit less oil, so maybe add, if the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons or 3 tablespoons. I would start with 2, and then as you'll see, we'll make it in a few minutes. When it crumbles, you might not need that 3rd tablespoon because it's not going to absorb as much of the coconut flour. Okay, so our egg whites are almost there. Our chocolate is basically ready. This is a fast forward version. Okay. Okay. So now I'm I'm going to take my chocolate mixture. You can either combine it whichever way. You can either pour the hot chocolate into your eggs and your sugar, or you want to pour it directly into the pan. Done it both ways. Now you're going to just mix that together. I usually wait for it to cool a little bit, but I want to move a little faster so we can get on to the next thing for you guys. And just make sure to really combine your chocolate, your melted chocolate mixture, and your eggs with the coconut sugar. Okay, and now that our whites are fully set, I'm just going to show you. Okay, they have a nice little, you can't really, can you see? A nice peak, I don't want to mess with them too much. And I'm just simply going to have my machine on like a medium speed. And I'm going to slow actually. I'm going to incorporate my chocolate and allow everything to like fold together and mix together. I'm going to speed up a bit. So right now it has like almost a coffee, like a frothy coffee flavor. As I speed it up, it's going to become like a much lighter chocolate. Oops, that's dripping down the side. But it's going to still be a nice dark chocolate color. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. And that's it, guys. Like super simple. This is so beyond delicious. Okay. Okay, so now you have two choices. Once you have your mousse, there you see it. Once you have your mousse made, you can simply, first of all, if you want to just make it in a pie and not bake it first, you can put it in your spring pan or in any baking pan that goes like, you know, oven to, or freezer to table or oven to table. Or I love serving them in ramekins. I just think it's so pretty. So I'm just going to show you both options since I have a smaller pan over here. So option one, very simple. You just pour some of your mousse into your ramekin and you're just going to freeze it. Then when you're ready to serve, I would leave it out on the counter for at least 15 to 20 minutes before serving so it can have a moussier texture as opposed to like a frozen texture. It does defrost pretty quickly. And you can serve this right here in the ramekin with a scoop of the Ceylon ice cream, which we'll make in a moment, with the cookie crumble on top. Beautiful, easy, simple. Something else, another recipe that I have on my website is an apple crisp. This and the apple crisp together is like a whole new thing. It's like amazing. You can also make them in smaller ones because they're really, it's really a very rich recipe. The next option is if you're making it in a spring pan. So first you're just going to want to take a little bit of coconut oil and just line your spring pan. Not line, base your spring pan, sorry. Okay. Wish I could find the regular size. Okay, not happening today. And then I'm going to pour in, so in this case, it's not necessarily a third because I'm going to be using some, in some ramekins, I might make a few more. But I'm putting in about a third of the way, or a quarter to a third of the way up. And then we're going to bake this in our oven that's preheated 350 degrees. So we're gonna bake our mousse. I'm gonna set the timer for 15 minutes. Now, when our mousse comes out of the oven, we let it cool just a little bit. You'll see it'll rise and fall just a tad. And then you can take the rest of your mousse, pour it on top, and then put it in the freezer. Okay, so now that our mousse is on its way, let's make our ice cream. Okay, so this ice cream recipe was featured in kosher.com. I never make a single recipe, so I'm gonna actually show it to you as a double recipe because if I'm making it, why not make double? Okay, so what you need is classic coconut milk can. There's many different companies that make it. Just make sure that you're buying one that's unsweetened for this recipe. And what you're going to do is you're just going to take the cream off the top. There's going to be liquid, you can see, on the bottom. You can't really see. There's water on the bottom, it's just coconut water. And that part we don't actually want to incorporate into this recipe. So just take out as much as you can. The drop of water gets in, it will be fine. We're basically just getting the thick coconut cream on the top. Okay, then again, we're doubling our recipe here. So it's 2 cans of coconut cream. Okay. And then for each recipe, it's 1 cup, for one recipe, it's a half a cup of almond or coconut milk. I'm doubling here, so we're doing a full cup. Okay, now, the recipe calls for sweetener for Ceylon and optionally honey. I find it's absolutely sweet enough without the honey. I make it for my family and my guests all the time, and I never add the honey. I find it to be totally sweet enough without it. But if you have a sweet tooth, definitely feel free to add anywhere from 2 to 4 tablespoons additional honey per recipe. Okay, and then it's 2 teaspoons or 1 teaspoon of vanilla? 2. Okay, so it's 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract. Okay, now, you're gonna unfortunately need 2 machines for this recipe. You need a blender or a NutriBullet or a Vitamix or whatever it is that you have. It's over. And then this recipe does require an ice cream maker. An ice cream maker is a very inexpensive machine. You can find them on, I don't know if you guys have Amazon over there, but I got one on Amazon for like $35. Cuisinart makes a wonderful one. Mine is red, of course. And it's just a great machine to have in your house to make ice cream because store-bought ice cream has so many processed ingredients. It's so hard to find one that doesn't have added sugar and chemicals and binders. So if you want to make healthy ice cream, there are recipes that you can just make with blenders and food processors and freeze them and then double blend them. I find this to be so much less work. So, I'm just going to blend that. Okay, that's it. Very easy. And now I'm just going to plug in my ice cream maker. Now the trick to your ice cream maker is to always keep your bowl in your freezer when you're not using it. So every time I finish using it, I wash it out and I put it right back in my freezer. Your bowl has to be cold, like frozen, in order for the ice cream to work. Every ice cream maker that I've seen is basically the same concept. You put in this paddle blade, paddle whisk, I guess, the cover, and you turn it on. Then once your machine is on, you simply pour your ice cream batter right in, and you just let it do its work. That's it, super simple. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes of mixing on its own. You walk away and move on to the next thing, and we'll have delicious scoopable ice cream that you can freeze and defrost for also like 10-15 minutes before scooping. So that was it, super easy. So far, everything was super easy. This one is even easier, okay? Now we are making the cookie crumble. I love this cookie crumble. You can serve it just on the mousse itself or just on the ice cream itself, or put this whole thing together for a super incredible dessert. Okay, so you just need 2 cups of my grain-free flour blend, or like I said, you can use regular almond flour. When looking for almond flour, you want to look for the most finely ground almond flour. There might be little little dark pieces. You might think it's bugs or something. It's usually the shells. Another tip that I found just in working with flours over the years is that when an almond flour is more yellow in color, it's usually more fatty and it does not come out. It does not produce optimal baked goods. So if you have brands that you can kind of see the flour and you can see the color, look for the one that's the most white and the smallest pieces. So we've got our 2 cups right here. Now you can add a little bit of cinnamon if you want. Sorry, I make this all the time, but we have, right, okay. So now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. It does not have to be melted, but it should be at room temperature. So it shouldn't, coconut oil, when it sits out, it gets quite hard. Okay, we've got 3 tablespoons. And then you're gonna add the recipe calls for 1.5 cups of raw honey. But you can do more if you feel you need something a little bit sweeter. I really don't think it needs more than 3 tablespoons. We're very happy with 1.5. But again, all these recipes can definitely be adjusted to taste. Okay, now. I'm just gonna crumble it. Really that simple. Take a fork and you start to mix it. And you're gonna think, okay, her ratios were off. Sorry, I can't see. This is not working. Just be patient. It will work. Okay, just keep mixing it. I'm also going to prepare my cookie sheet. Guys, if you have any questions, you might want to start asking them now, either on the recipes or any other questions that you want to ask me, because once we get this cookie crumble in the oven, we're going to have to wait a few minutes before everything comes out to move on to our next steps. But if you see what I'm doing, I'm taking my hands, I'm squeezing them together, and then I'm sort of flaking it. And this is going to turn into a nice, delicious crumble. I just keep squeezing, and then I'm not totally flaking it away, so I want to kind of keep those lumps and bumps. Okay. Again, with the plain almond flour, you might need to adjust your coconut oil. Okay, so now that I have, let's see if I can show you this crumble. Okay, you see what I have here? So I'm taking my hands, I'm getting my rings all disgusting. I'm going like this, and then I'm sort of like loosely breaking them up. So I keep the crumble. Okay, you see? Okay, if you're having trouble with it, you can always add a little bit more coconut oil, or if you want more bigger chunks as opposed to littler chunks, you can always add a little more coconut oil or even a little extra honey. They kind of do the same thing, which is interesting. They work together really well. You can also add a little bit of cinnamon for a little bit of a cinnamony flavor to it. I've added, sometimes you put a little bit of vanilla extract, which also adds a nice flavor. Okay, take off my rings. Okay, so now, soak them. Now I'm taking a cookie sheet. And I always like to line my cookie sheets with parchment paper. And you're just going to take your cookie crumble and put it on your pan. Now, once it's on the pan, I sort of continue to break it up. I sort of spread it out. Like these pieces are more crumbled on the side. And then if I end up with like sort of a mound of crumbs that are just a little too small, like they didn't really crumble, I'll take that section, squeeze it in my hand, and then break them up to create those little bit of bigger pieces of crumble. You actually don't want such big pieces either. You don't want little powdery pieces, but like a big piece like this they're not sweet enough to taste good like that. They kind of need to be a little, it's supposed to be like a topping that you're gonna add on top. Okay. Take that again, just break up into smaller pieces. We're going to be adding chocolate chips when this comes out of the oven, and we're gonna mix it at that point. So you'll see, I know this kind of looks like, huh? Now also, just so you know, for my apple crisp recipe, and I also have a blueberry. Sorry. Okay, good, we're back. I'm sorry, my phone is connected to this and so I'm just trying calling. Okay. So I've got my crumble, and now I'm going to bake this on 350 for about 8 to 10 minutes. You definitely need to keep your eye on this because it can go from perfect to burnt really, really fast. Okay, so our mousse has about a few more minutes. So I'm going to add, it's on 4 minutes left now, so I'll add 6 more minutes or 4 more minutes after. And our ice cream is getting there. 1 second. Okay. So we have all our components doing what they need to do. And now I'd love to answer some of your questions. This post. Okay, I told Trevor was to please call me later. Okay, how long can you freeze it? So this recipe, I mean, I've had it as long as you're not freezing and defrosting over and over. If it's in proper freezer containers, I would say it can last for at least 2 months in the freezer. Can you make different ingredients? I don't know what you mean by that. Okay, why did you use K-piece for whisking the eggs? Oh, because I don't have a whisk, so I used the, I guess you're calling it a K-piece. I call it the paddle blade, and it absolutely works. Oh, thank you. Thank you for watching me on kosher.com. Thank you. Do you cater? No, I don't cater. I just share recipes and teach people how to make it themselves in their own houses. But a lot of my recipes are going to be coming to Hava Java, which is a dairy restaurant here in Muncie that is going to be having a lot of my breads and muffins and salad dressings and a lot of other full and free soups and salads and mains. Very, very exciting. And I have been in touch with 2 different caterers here in Muncie if they want to start offering a full and free catering line in their catering business. And they both are interested. So we're sort of figuring that out because people ask me all the time, especially they want to have a simcha and they want to offer healthier options or just even for their own personal use. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? As of now, no. Okay. So that's our mousse. I'm just going to take it out now. It was a smaller one, so I think it's nice to be okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to add another like 4 minutes. And then we'll check on our crumble again at that point, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so here's our mousse. This is our mousse cake. So basically it's the recipe we made, but we just baked it, and it has a real cake texture. I'm tongue-tied. A real cake texture Also, has anyone noticed all of this is kosher Pesach? So you can make it for Sukkot, but you can also make it for Pesach. Okay, so now, really it's best to let it cool a little bit before adding the mousse, but nothing will really happen if you don't. And I'm just gonna add the mousse on top. Oh, I wonder if I have one ready made in the freezer so I can show you. I think I might. Okay, you're gonna add the mousse on top. And you're just going to freeze it like this. I'm actually gonna make a few more ramekins with what's left of this one. I like smaller ones. I know I have smaller ramekins. Let's see. I like serving it both ways, really. There's something very fun about eating in a ramekin. But the cake version is lovely. It's really like a very special dessert. Another thing I like to do with I actually usually do it with the ramekins is I would serve it with either pomegranate seeds, which is wonderful for Rosh Hashanah. You can literally just serve a little chocolate mousse in a ramekin with pomegranate seeds on top. If you use fresh berries, that's also wonderful on it. So let's see, from one recipe here, I'm going to have this mousse cake, which I'm actually going to make a little bit higher. And then I have 3 ramekins. The cookie crumble probably needs another 4 minutes. It has 2 minutes left in there. Now, basically, you'll cover it and you'll put it in your freezer. I'm going to just leave them out here for the meantime. Okay, now the ice cream. Should I bring this over to show you? It's basically, it started off as a liquid, and as it mixes in the machine, it's starting to get thicker and thicker, and it's going to turn into a totally scoopable ice cream. See, I have some from Shabbos. Where is it? 1 minute, guys. I'm trying to find my ice cream from Shabbos. Oh, there it is. Okay. I really make this every week. So this is what it literally turns into scoopable ice cream. I would definitely want to let this thaw for at least 15 minutes. But keep your eye on it because then it gets a little too wet, but it's very hard to scoop it when it's hard because it does get quite hard. And you just scoop it, like this was a scoop that I guess we didn't end up using. So you could see it like literally scoops into a scoop of ice cream. So let's say you would have your ramekin with your chocolate mousse. You put a scoop of your Ceylon ice cream on top, and then some of the cookie crumble that we're going to make in a moment. Now, once the ice cream is fully mixed, what happens is you'll see it gets larger, and it gets like a really thick, delicious, totally like almost like a soft serve when it's in the machine like this. If you want to have some when it's fresh, it's for sure the most delicious when it's fresh. But then otherwise, I like to put it in, you'll see it's a flatter container as opposed to a deep container. Because I find that it's just easier to scoop when it's in a flat container. I can scoop this way, whereas when you make it in like a long, deeper container, it's just, I find it doesn't thaw as evenly, okay? So that's almost ready. The next thing we're going to do when our cookie crumble comes out of the oven is we want to have our chocolate chips on hand. Again, you can use 60, 72%, or the 85%, really. I mean, you can use 50%, 45% too, whatever works for you. And the recipe calls for about 1/3 of a cup, but feel free to use more. I would say you can go up to, for sure, 1/2 cup to 2/3 of a cup, depending on how much chocolate you want in your cookie crumble. If you want more crumble or if you want more cookies. I'm going to put 2/3 of a cup in here, and then I'll sort of decide on some sprinkling. Okay. Almost ready. I'm going to see if you guys have any added comments or questions while we give that the last moment. Oh, there's 3. Okay. Okay. Oh, I know. First of all, I'll tell you guys the issue. It is very hard to get this product overseas for a normal price because of importing fees and taxes out of when you go out of the States. So I just felt like the price would be so astronomical. If any of you know a distributor or have access to a distributor, please have them or send them. You could send me information, either DM on Instagram or you can email me, Rorie at fullandfree.com. I would definitely, so far, anyone that I spoke to, it didn't really work. I'm working on iHerb. I've been reaching out to them. I've reached out to them and put in an application a few times to get my products on iHerb. And they say that it takes, 6 months before they even evaluate you. And I still have not been evaluated. So that was my other idea, but I'm very open to ideas. So you guys are there. So you know what's available. So please let me know. My website is fullandfree.com, FULLNFREE.com. On my website is, I'm just letting it go because I want to see it in another minute. On my website is all the information about my mixes with demos. I also have a free spelt sourdough tutorial, which you can find all the videos, all the instructions on my website. And then the next section is my recipes. It's a totally free virtual cookbook. I am hopefully coming out with a printed version. I'm hoping for sure before next Pesach, if not earlier. But all my recipes are there. Anything that's been printed in Mishpacha or in kosher.com is all there. Also, my recipe demos are on kosher.com. You can go there, kosher.com, shows, and it's a living full and free show. My virtual cookbook is literally set up like a cookbook. There's breakfast breakthroughs and dips and dressings and salads and soups and fish and dairy and chickens and meats and vegetable sides, starchy vegetable and grains and beans, a bread section and a dessert section. So tons of recipes there. These recipes are there. I'm going to read them off to you before we end today. So if you'd like to write them down, you absolutely can. Or you'll be able to just find them directly on the website. Okay. So our cookie crumble is done. I'm going to go timer off. Okay. One second. I don't know if this is in your way, but it's in mine. So I'm just going to just get rid of that little box. Okay. Okay, guys. So our ice cream is ready. Yay. Here's our cookie crumble. So don't touch it, just leave it. Do you see, can you see from the video? You see? Might have even needed like 30 seconds less, but it's fine like this. I told you it goes from like almost ready to 2 ready, like really fast. So definitely set your time for 8 minutes and then like stand near your oven to watch. And then I just take my chocolate chips and I pour it on. So that was about 1/3 of a cup, but I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna do about 1/2 cup. I'm gonna do it. Everyone likes the chocolate in my house. Okay, and then what's happening is your chocolate is going to melt. You have to do this right when it comes out of the oven. And then I'm just very gently mixing it. I'm not like giving it a heavy mix. Like I'm working with like my spoon is like gently going through it. And what that does is it coats the chocolate chips with the crumble. Kind of brings it all together. And it is fantastic. Okay, so there you've got your chocolate chip cookie crumble. You've got your chocolate mousse. And check this out. You've got your ice cream. Okay, let me get my ice cream scooper. And I'm just going to this is normally the container that I use for the ice cream. I think it was used last Shabbos, which is why I put it in there. So let's see. Watch this. Well, I want to show you how nicely it scoops. We have this ice cream. Okay. It's precious. It's the gold. Okay. And then let's check this out. literally. So you got a scoop of ice cream. Now, it's quite wet now. What you do is you refreeze it, you let it thaw out, like I said, for about 15 minutes. And you scoop it before you serve it. Chocolate mousse, a scoop of sea lime ice cream with cookie crumble. Such a healthy alternative to like those really like, you know, the Riches Whip with all those creamers and heavy, you know, just, you know, tons of sugar, tons of flour, tons of Riches Whip and chemicals. So you really get, you know, the same kind of treat that you love, but with natural, unrefined ingredients. That is the full and free way. You'll also notice that it's much less sweet than a typical dessert, but sweet enough that it's delicious. And you'll also notice that because there's all these healthy fats in it, a small serving really is extremely filling, but also satisfying. Like you really satisfy that craving for sugar, for chocolate and something creamy, but because it's truly filling, you actually get satisfied, you know, just keep eating more and more and more. Okay, so there we've got all of our elements, our mousse, either in ramekins or in a spring pan, our ice cream, and our cookie crumble. Okay, we're gonna go through your questions one more time. I'm going to read off the recipe so you guys could write it down. What time is this ending? It's in a few minutes. We're going to be ending. I'm just going to read off the recipes, see if anybody has any last minute questions. And we're officially ending at 4. But you know, whenever, if you guys don't have any other questions, then I've read the recipe then because we're going to say goodbye. Okay, so for the chocolate mousse, we did 7 ounces of chocolate chips, whatever variety of or percentage of chocolate you want. Today I use 60%. I've done it with 72 and 85, and they all came out delicious. It just depends on your sugar load that you're used to. There's a half a cup of coconut oil. You mix the chocolate chips and the oil in a pot on a low flame until it melts. In the meantime, you're going to stiffen 7 egg whites. You're going to mix a half a cup of coconut sugar with your 7 egg yolks. You're going to mix your coconut sugar and eggs, your egg yolks, with your melted chocolate. Mix that together and then fold it into your egg whites and mix it until it's fully combined. Making it in ramekins, you're just going to divide it into your ramekins depending on what size you want and stick them in the freezer covered. If you want to make the cake bottom, you're going to take about 1/3 of your mousse, put it in your spring pan or whatever pan you want to use, bake it on 350 for 15 minutes, allow it to cool, and then put your mousse on top, cover, and bake. Okay, any questions on that recipe before we move on? Can you say that again? Absolutely. So I'm just going to say the recipe, then I'll say the instructions. 7 ounces of chocolate chips, a half a cup of unrefined extra virgin coconut oil, 7 eggs separated, and a half a cup of coconut sugar. And then what you're doing is you're melting your chocolate into your coconut oil. You're melting your chocolate into the coconut oil. Your 7 egg yolks you mix with the half cup coconut sugar. Stiffen your egg whites. And then you're going to mix your chocolate, egg yolk, and coconut sugar mixture into your egg whites and blend it until it's, mix it until it's combined, and then put it either in the ramekins or the spring pan. Does the mousse cake cut nicely? Yeah, I mean, again, you're putting it in the freezer. It almost becomes like almost like a crust for your mousse, but it's a cakey crust. I wouldn't want to make the cake and then like serve it as like brownies or like a regular cake, but the way that you make it with this recipe, it works beautifully. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the chocolate chip cookie crumble. So that is 2 cups of my grain-free mix or almond flour, 1.5 to 3 tablespoons of raw honey, 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. You're going to combine that together and turn that into a crumble like you saw. Bake it for 8 to 10 minutes on 350 degrees. And then you're gonna add between 1/3 to 2/3 cup of chocolate chips. Mix that with a spoon and let it completely cool before you work with it. Like you see now the chocolate is still very wet and it's melting. So it's gonna harden. I'm gonna leave it like this for at least a half an hour to an hour before I touch it. But I do it this is I store it in the freezer. So I will also take it in a bigger pan so that it's kind of spread. And I leave it in my freezer. When I take out the ice cream and I take it all out about 15 to 20 minutes before it's time to serve. And I take my chocolate mousse, cut it, just cut a piece, scoop out a scoop of ice cream, and then the cookie crumble it's really interesting. The stuff that's made with my mix, it doesn't like fully freeze. It almost like semi-freezes. So once you defrost it, it defrosts really quickly. If you go onto my website, you see my brownie recipe. It's the same thing. You can literally eat it right out of the freezer. My cookies, most of the things made with my mix, you can really eat from the freezer or defrost it very, very quickly. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the ice cream. And again, remember, everything is on my website, fullandfree.com. Go straight to the dessert section. You'll see chocolate mousse, chocolate chip cookie crumble, sea lime ice cream. Super clear, super easy, it's right there. So now for the ice cream, for one recipe, we doubled it. So I'll give you the ratios for one. 1 can of canned coconut milk, you're removing the cream on top, discarding the water. 1/2 cup of almond or coconut milk. I like it much better with almond milk. Very strong coconut if you use the coconut milk. 1/4 cup of Ceylon, optional 2 to 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup of honey and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. You're gonna blend the wet ingredients and you're gonna put it in your ice cream maker. It takes about 15, 20 minutes till it fully blends. You're going to spread it out in a pan, cover it, put it in your freezer. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you guys. Thank you all for coming. It's always so nice when people participate and ask questions. I hope you enjoyed. I would love to get your feedback if you actually do make these recipes for Yontif or even before Yontif. Please DM me on Instagram, send me pictures, and it always makes me happy. I think someone asked how many it serves. Let's see. How many people are on? Let's go to participants. It says 21 attending. Very nice. All right, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed. Please send pictures if you make them and have a hot kosher v'sameach.